Hello guys. Interesting, there's a Crunchyroll thing happening? What's that? Oh yeah, I'm not complaining, I guess. See how long the queues are gonna be. Suppose I'll just open haste in the meantime. I'm looking forward to tomorrow at least, so that I can get the aspect on Apollo. I don't know how good it's gonna be though. Damn, straight into it. I could see the aspect being somewhat broken, but I could also just see it being terrible. Like, I've played around with it a little bit now, a few times, in, like in practice. But the fact that this one scales with max HP from items is interesting. We'll just have to wait and see how that actually works out. Because I mean, that's obviously just the fact that right now, even if you build full HP on a tank, you're not really gonna last very long anyway. Damage is very high in Smite at the moment, when tank items aren't great. So we're just in this position where that aspect being reliant on HP might be a terrible, terrible thing. Still, it has other aspects to that aspect that might be really good, like the shield on the 2. And you can fire your 1 multiple times, as long as you charge it up. You will be losing the attack speed though. And I don't know if that's actually worth it for a Hunter Apollo at least. Because that early attack speed is really nice for you. And while the shield is nice, like, do you really need it as Apollo? Like, you already gain protections from the mess, which I think is still quite good. I need a Q to pop. It's already longer than I expected. But I should be fine as long as I find the Q. And hopefully I can just stick to that one. I'm also just generally guessing not that many people are playing at this time. I assume most people have actual work or school or some shit. Like, why would you play ranked right now? I'll definitely play some Apollo today, but I do think I also want to play something else, because I do know that if I am allowed to, I will play Apollo all day tomorrow, just so I can focus on the aspect. Unless it's terrible, then maybe I won't, but I don't know, people kind of think Apollo isn't that good right now anyway, so I guess it won't really change much for me. I just want to play Apollo. There we go. Finally a Q pop. I did play a bit off stream yesterday. I mostly lost, so I have lost a little bit of SR, but I gotta make up for that today. What is Apollo's aspect gonna be? He's gonna be more of a frontline aspect. At least that's what I expect them to do. It's more health based. He's one scaled with max HP instead, and you can stack up to 3 of them. The 2 is gonna give him a shield instead. I think it just adds a shield actually. I don't even think it takes anything away, which is kind of crazy. So you still get the protection and you also get a shield. And that's basically it. Like, they're changing his 1 to be only reliant on health scaling. Which is the big part, because that means you kind of need to go health. In some way. I have a few builds in mind I want to try out. I'll just have to wait and see.
Select your god.
Whether I play Apollo after this will remain to be seen. For now, at least, I want to start with Apollo. If anything, I just need worshippers on him as well. I gotta get that Radiant Apollo as soon as possible. I do think that's actually his best looking skin out of the mastery skins. Where I feel like very often it's actually not the Radiant one that looks the best. Like Opal or Onyx often actually just look better. But on Apollo, I do think the Radiant is the coolest one. No, man, it was dodged. Shit. Why? Who are you? How could you do this to me? Damn it. I hope the aspect is good though. Because as I've mentioned a few times at this point, like, it's just the main thing that I was looking forward to. I didn't know how good Apollo was just going to be in general, and he's actually okay, I think, right now in solo. I don't think he's terrible, and he's fine for ranked anyway. At least he's something playable. And I found a build that I like on him. that is still somewhat frontliney, and because of his protections that he gets from the mess, as well as just just natural peel ability because of the mess, he still feels nice to play. So even if the aspect is complete dog shit, I will probably still play Apollo. I just love Apollo. I'll just do non-aspect still, but I really do hope that the aspect is something that I will find very, very fun, and that I will actually make him potentially even a good solo, so that I can actually play him without having any worries. It does make me wonder what they're doing with the Vamana aspect. I don't think Vamana is anywhere close to being released, but like there is one thing they could do to just make Vamana perfect for me, and that's probably if they made him a bit of if they made him like a mage aspect. I've been thinking about it too. Like if they gave Vamana a ability-based aspect, I guess it doesn't have to be mage. You can be like strength as well, but just an ability-based aspect that I guess maybe ups his scaling a bit, but takes away all the protection he has in his kit. And then instead of his ult being a transform, it should just be like a frontal cone or some shit like that. Because I do think he has the potential to be essentially like an assassin, but the ultimate stops that really from happening because of the function. It's a weird function, right? It's a very hit or miss ult. Like it's either gonna carry the whole team fight, or you're just gonna die in a single, you're gonna die in a second. So Vamana has always been like very in and out of metas, so I do hope that the aspect on him is very different. Excuse me. Because I do think, like, kind of like what they did with Sobek's aspect, they're changing the one thing on him that essentially, defines the whole god. I hope they do that on Vamana as well, but obviously pull it off a bit better. I do think the idea behind the Sobek aspect is correct, it's just the execution is not. Changing the plug means you have to play him differently. I just think they didn't do the right thing to it. Because it does the same thing, just worse. What could they do to make it different, though? I'm not really sure. I would have to think about it, but in Vamana's case, at least, I do think they should just change it into making it like a big... Like, how could I even compare it to something else in Smite at the moment? I don't know, I guess like a bigger version of Apollo's 1, I suppose? Like a frontal square-esque, I guess a rectangle shape, but I guess at about the size of his ultimate, like in front of him, they would just like kind of like, I guess, I don't know, maybe you could use the animation for his his death animation in the avatar, and just make that like a frontal big damaging thing. So it has that effect of like a big mage ultimate. I don't know, maybe that's so simple as well. It's just some thoughts. I would just really like to see a more ability-based version of Vamana. Because right now, well, I guess in Smite 1, I should say, it generally feels way more incentivized to go attack speed just because of how his ultimate functions. Like, going ability-based just doesn't make any sense. You're just rendering the ultimate useless. Anyway, maybe that's enough Vamana ranting. I miss Vamana. I want to play Vamana. But there are a lot of gods that I really do miss. I also really miss Kronos. I absolutely miss Kronos. But I think he would be incredibly strong in the current version of Smite. Because of Nimble Ring. You build him full mage, and you have Nimble Ring, and he's actually just a god. Just be banning the same stuff, I guess. Try and get the same shit.
Select your god.
Just the same person I'm against. Same picks and bans. Who is it? Oh yeah, dude, I keep forgetting on Acne, man. I need to start banning Acne. I'm just so not used to him. At least in ranked, anyway. But it's also weird, right? Because I think I would rather meet Acne, I guess, than a good Afro. Because I think a good Afro it's just the worst, man. It pisses me off, alright? Dealing with a good Afro is the fucking worst. I want her out. Alright. I actually, on a side note, I was actually going to stream yesterday, but for some reason after the last patch, my game started crashing every 5 minutes. So I had to fix that for the majority of yesterday. Or the majority. I spent like 2 or 3 hours fixing it. It was annoying as shit. So that kind of put a stopper to my stream, because it just took my whole stream slot, basically, trying to fix that. At least I did fix it, and I was playing a bit off-stream after the fact, but at that point I just wasn't in the mood to stream anymore. It was gone. The passion was out. Now, I am against something annoying, I can see. Bologna, I'm guessing. Kind of annoying as an Apollo, but not the worst, I suppose. At least I have my mess for the 2.
Good luck.
Question is, do I just go for something high damage in this game? I might need to. Like Nem, Aspect Nem. Nem Bologna can very easily dive me, and I don't think being tanky is going to help that. Suppose I'll just see how the laning phase goes.
Hi. Hi. Minions have spawned.
It's actually not a bad first game. I recognize a lot of names. Surprisingly. People be playing early. Damn, they actually did invade on the left side. Why is that Bologna skin? Why does it look so weird from here? I need my game to stop lagging now. It always lags in the beginning in my first games, I feel like. I guess just because it's rendering stuff still, but that's so annoying. Gotta chill a little bit. Is this Vagana POV? I just like Apollo, man. Nothing new here. It's one of my favorite gods.
Okay.
I mean, we went all the way to his backs. That's crazy. Just make sure that he misses a creep or two for that. Damn. Sobek level 1. 2 deaths.
Your left tower is under attack.
I might get ganked early if the dual lane is getting this fit. Yeah.
Your right tower is under attack.
Yes.
Just let things clear. I missed that. Shit.
Yes. No.
Your right tower is under attack. Enemy missing right. Cancel that. Have fun.
You're going nowhere.
An enemy has been slain. Your left tower is under attack.
Still thinking about my first item here. Hey, Pablo. Still feel tanks are bad. Just yeah. I think I just think tanks are bad. I think both mages and ADC are arguably better in solo. I just think tanks feel terrible. You just don't feel tanky at all.
Okay.
Let's keep this.
I think they can work. Like, I don't think it's to the point where they're unplayable. They're still probably better in lane for the majority. Like, in this matchup, I don't think I'm gonna win this matchup if I try to fight her, but like, once we hit late game team fighting and stuff, like, you just get one shot as a tank. It feels so bad. I know I'm trying to hit a Bologna. Probably shouldn't. I'm gonna go with turfing, I suppose. Because I don't want to fight. Probably just not Bologna. One shot then back with Nemean. I think Nemean is the saving grace of frontliners at the moment. You can definitely still be impactful with Nemean as a frontline. I do think that's possible. But if a carry is smart, which I have tried a few times by now, when I do this, playing something like Mordred, they will realize I am Nemeing, and that shit only lasts 4 seconds. So he just runs away for 4 seconds, then he turns around and one-shots me instead. And it feels like shit, alright? It feels like absolute dog shit. You can counterplay if you're against something like Poseidon, Like he Krakens, you Nemean, great. You get your value out of it. But if you're not against something that has huge burst, like generally it just doesn't feel good. Like ADCs, obviously, as an example. Aw, man. Aspect Nemesis? Who does that? Oh, well. Oh well. Kinda missed the ult completely, but I still landed behind, so it's alright. Build Demon and Hades with 5 damage items? Damn. That might be a bannable offense, honestly. No, but that, I mean, that should definitely work, yeah. That makes sense. I think Nemean is broken, legitimately. It's very, very good.
Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
I assume he did these.
Be careful, middle. Think you scare me? Retreat, right lane. Bring it on, demonkind.
Ally has been slain.
Thought I was following? Damn.
I have no fear.
It's a double dash.
Enemy has been slain.
Stinking creeps.
Very strong. Oh, you move like a jaguar. Your left tower is under attack.
Glad to have you around.
Can't believe someone would not follow me. That's crazy.
Your rain shall wash them away.
I'm glad to have you around.
Nice job.
Help!
I'm just gonna keep running. Because they have to be somewhere nearby, right? They're level 8. They don't have spawn timers. Alright. Core online.
Oh, easy wrong team.
Now, if Uller stops dying, I think we're in a good spot.
Your left tower is under attack.
Maybe. It's alright, I hate to. I get it.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Oh, if I had my ult right now.
Oh, you move like a jaguar. Ooh. An enemy has been slain.
My
Your left
urge to
tower is under
rotate
attack.
is
Your
unbearable.
middle tower is under attack.
The Pyromancer has arrived.
mean, on a side note of the whole tanks being bad thing, I don't really mind them being bad, because I am so fucking tired of Cabrakan. I'm so tired of Cabrakan every game when tanks are good. At least in the meta where you can play mages, like right now it feels more skill-based. You can still make a tank work if you're really good at it, sure, even though they're still bad. But I hate having to deal with someone who's never played the game before and they're playing a Bracken and they're still shitting on me because they're just pressing the buttons because the buttons are that good. I hate it. Cap is bad now because of tanks being bad, you know? Okay, man.
Enemy ultimate down. No. Okay. I'm not done with you.
Enemy spotted! Ward here!
Radical. Think you scare me?
One day I'll hit it. There it is.
You're going nowhere.
Shut down! Jeez!
Well, this isn't good for me.
Your left tower is under attack! Fabuloso!
Attack.
Take it like a baby!
Ha! I am ready.
Oh, you move like a child! Your left tower is under attack!
Unfortunate. That is so unfortunate. I wish I had my pharaohs when they got onto tower.
Tower is under attack! The rain shall wash them away!
We lost tier 2 and left.
Your middle tower is under attack!
Just go lean in bow. I think it was just the fact that he was generally more tanky than you no matter what you did. He also just did more damage than you no matter what you did. That was just Cabrakan, that's how he was. Because he had more abilities than you, because he has 2 2s. He has more CC than you. Literally everything was just more than you. Outside of maybe just, like, he didn't have a dash or a jump, right? But he had slow immunity, so he still had good escapability. And a lot of movement speed. He was just not easy to deal with, no matter the case, as long as anyone just presses his abilities. He just felt unfair. Still does. I mean, it's
Enemy has
just that
been slain!
he's not tanky now, so he can't rely on that aspect. I just don't understand the thought about giving him a second 2, while also giving him a cripple. We're telling, like, seriously, on paper, think about it. We gave him essentially another ability. He has 2 stuns already. Another ability.
Ey, du Hund, Digga, was stirbst du die ganze Zeit links, Mann?
And then we gave him a cripple. Not many gods has 3 CCs. You know? Like, that's insane. Let's see. Do they have wards on me? They don't.
Your right tower
Stop
is
them on
under
gold, I
attack.
guess.
The rain shall wash them away!
And baited. Comeback time, boys. We can do
Your
this.
right tower is under attack! Yeah, I like that.
Right, what are we doing next? Scrap Nemean. That's never bad.
Okay.
Yeah, he should be balanced enough to be a support, but it's weird, right? Because I don't think he's that scary if he is not dealing damage. I just think his kit supports really well in that You know, he's got a wall and I guess 2 stuns as well with the cripple rate. I feel like on paper it sounds good for supporting, but at the same time it just doesn't feel as good as something like a Ymir or Sobek. But those tools that he has feel really good if you can be the aggressor. Let's grab this tower. I thought that was her.
Sorry.
That's my bad. The fuck? It was so bright and glowy. I thought it was her backing.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Why one miss underneath?
Enemy spotted.
Fear.
Oh, I caught my dash.
Thunderstruck. Enemy has been slain.
It is unfortunate, because this game feels so winnable if it wasn't for Ullr struggling as much as he is. All I can really hope is that he's not that bad, and hopefully he can get back into the game once he gets some solo farm. Because in terms of XP, he's really not that far behind. Like, what is that? Like 6 solo kills, basically, and he has 2 levels on him. It's not too bad. I'll go Ixie, because I do need some more pen. Well, I actually just don't damage Bacchus. Yeah, that's actually true. I didn't think about that. He did get nerfed recently as well with the minus damage on his extra 2, but I really don't think that's going to make a big difference. It nerfs his early game a bit, but it's still the same damage late game, I believe, right? When you level up the ability, it's still the same as it was before. I do think it's good nerfing his early though, because his early was very, very impressive.
The rain shall wash them away.
Attack the fire giant.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Enemy has been slain.
Still good, but it sucks that we didn't get the Merlin there.
Ally has been slain. The rain shall wash them away. You move like a jaguar.
Huge. Right on top of us all. As she pierced to 3, that's so unfortunate for him.
Bolts of lightning, very, very scary. Yeah.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Follow me.
Your middle tower has been destroyed.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Enemy has been slain.
Yeah, it's new. Oh, my bad. I thought we were gonna be a bit faster there.
Fabuloso.
But it worked out.
Oh, Mayarific.
Your team has destroyed the pyramids.
Finally, 20. Question is, do I finish my item or do I just go for my starter? I kind of like the starter for the tankiness and just some poke. But XC is so useful for... oh.
Enemy spotted.
Group up. Defend the fire giant.
Yes. Be careful, right. Enemy spotted.
Help right lane. Bring it on, humankind.
If we can get a kill for it, sure, but that's just so unfortunate.
Your right tower is under attack.
Oh, fortunately I missed. Did some good damage. Oh man. Damn, I can't believe we got a wipe from that. That might be a game then.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, I just got caught. I didn't think they were all coming for me. I should have just ulted out. With my team there, I saw they were fighting someone, so I didn't think there was gonna be 3 people on me. Okay, it's
Your
not the
middle
end. We can
phoenix
still
has
defend.
been destroyed. Your titan is under attack.
We've also reached the point where I'm not tanking. I'm just gonna show some presence. They'll definitely see me.
Fire giant. Radical.
Okay. I'm trying to rely too much on my team in this game. And the 2 people that were here are not the ones that I trust. I shouldn't be putting my faith into the Euler and the Sobek in this game. Like, I think we just kill Merlin if he jumps after me like that. I don't think they had the same idea. At least he's a nice person. I mean, the first thing he said in the lobby was that Pinky's a troll. So, I don't know. He says he's a nice person, but is he really a nice person? Who knows? I'm gonna start playing more selfish. No more trying to set up for my team unless it is the Saul or a Wheelix. I also cannot be initiating anymore.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Let's push up a lane or a single wave.
On my way. The rain shall wash them away. One of those?
Retreat!
Beats them.
Yeah, we don't have Phoenix here. So we gotta be careful. I don't know why they're really fighting for this. That's the Phoenix.
Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower has been destroyed.
Agni did it, that missed his dagger.
Is under attack.
It just sucks. Sobek just plucks some Magi's off Bakas and dies for it.
Your right Phoenix
I definitely also feel a bit useless in this game, but I think that's amplified by the fact that I am... Yeah. I mean, they have Agni. I think that's another big reason. I'm pretty sure that's how I died too.
Phoenix has been destroyed.
How is Limbo still real? Dude, I can't believe I didn't touch this item in the patch.
Defeat.
We're really just gonna pew pew all the way like that? That's how we're doing it? Alright, maybe that's enough Apollo for now. I do want to play something else. He's all I've been playing the last 3 days. Like, I can't fully blame the Uller. Like, he picked arguably the worst ADC at the moment, maybe outside of Rama. Into Agni, the absolute best ADC that requires the least amount of skill to use. So, what are you really gonna do? Granted, I think he could have done better, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, because I haven't seen him before. If I see it again, though, that's a different situation. Probably just gonna start banning Agni more than Afro. Or even, actually, maybe more than Hades. I don't know. I don't know what to ban at this point, because there's actually just too much broken shit. Because Hades is just another one. Like, Hades and Afro are both other gods that I don't think requires a whole lot of skill. And I don't think I can ban Agni if they're first pick. Because then you have Kali and Aladdin. Like, I don't even know, man. I do think Agni is kind of worse than most of them at this point, though. Because everyone just plays it. At least not everyone is going to pick Hades and do well with it. At least the good thing about Hades is that you somewhat require decent positioning with him. Because it's pretty easy just to fuck up your positioning. But again, I mean, his ultimate is just broken as hell, so... I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Either way, I'll definitely play something else than Apollo now. He's fun, but I need a change of pace. And that game kind of left a little bit of a sour taste, because I felt somewhat useless going into late game because of the... I guess mostly because of the acne. But it's also just that we were never 5. And the few times we were, like, Sobek would just pluck someone and die instantly, making it kind of hard to fight back. I mean, actually literally the same team outside of the support. And by support, I mean our lowest elo person.
Select your god.
Let's see. What am I gonna pick then? What am I in the mood for? Kind of thinking Chuck. Haven't done a whole lot of Chuck lately. I'll do Chuck game. Now, what am I against? I guess Thor or Nim. I'm guessing it's gonna be a Thor solo. If it's the same Nemesis from before. Let me do more aggressive start, actually. Oh, yeah, it's Thor. Okay. I might go for a little bit of defense in this game, because otherwise this matchup with Thor is going to be kind of a nightmare. I might just go for a Neiman early. And by early I mean like third or some shit like that.
Hi.
Minions have spawned.
Bye. See you later.
I still don't understand why I never hit level 2.
Incredible! Your control of mana is quite astounding.
Gank.
Attack the minions! Incredible!
Abilities. I do need to be careful now that I'm basically out of pots.
Attack.
Please.
Thor is just a little
do
too good early
descend.
on for me to deal with. And he's just naturally very tanky because of the aspect. So that ain't changing. Let's do an early back.
Retreat. Right lane.
I'll grab one pot. I shouldn't need pots once I finish my life stealing. But for now, I'll take it.
Enemy missing middle.
Yes. Enemy missing left.
Control of mana is quite astounding.
He was level 4, but I don't think I want to stick around.
I'll attack.
out of mana.
It's not like I could have done blue by myself anyway.
Enemy spotted.
Out of mana. I grant you my most powerful blessing of fortune.
That was actually just lucky. Power hammering in as I hit level 5 is pretty much the perfect scenario while he's still level 4.
Your left tower is under attack.
Close.
Your right tower
That was
is under
terrible.
attack.
Definitely should have had that, but it's alright. I mean, I should have had it. I definitely should not have had it, realistically, because I don't know why he landed back on me. That was super risky.
The rain shall wash them away.
Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy spotted. Ooh, ally has been slain. Enemy spotted. Enemy has been slain.
Your right
I
tower
mean, I can't even blame him. Like, that's terrible, terrible gank to deal with.
The rain shall
Okay.
wash them away. Enemies in the left lane.
Yes.
Enemy missing right.
Oh, easy run. I'm sorry. Thunder. Yes.
Your right tower.
Enemy missing
Yeah, I mean, he is
powerful
aspect, so
middle.
the fact that he's full damage actually is interesting. That means I actually kind of win the matchup instead. If he builds tank, I don't really win the
Enemy
matchup.
missing right.
He just hits me and heals, and I don't do enough damage to kill him.
You move like a jaguar.
Wait. I was supposed to say, is this is so big,
Jaguar.
who's jungle? And then,
Fabuloso. You got thunderstruck.
damn, what just happened in that?
An enemy has been slain.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
aggro.
tower is under attack.
Enemy missing left.
Attack right lane.
Enemy missing left. Yes. Cancel that.
Set up an ambush here.
Enemy missing left. Be careful right.
Defend.
Yes.
Be careful left.
Ah, just waiting for my shit. So unfortunate. Not worth it either way though.
Blade, wash them away. Double kill.
All life
I'm surprised that actually hit. I thought the Afro was still kind of going on.
Very strong.
Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
Oh, my Riffy.
Your right tower is under attack.
Once again, an ADC is just not doing very well in my game.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your right tower has been destroyed.
Defend right lane. Cancel that. Enemy missing right.
Like, Soap just fucking lives here, man.
Enemy missing right.
Like, what is this? Why is he here all the time? He's just zoning Thor.
Help.
Enemy spotted. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
Excellent.
Be careful right. Incredible.
Lol.
Range, so
Just
wash
don't have
them
any
away.
mana.
Oh, that's a shame.
Fabuloso. Oh, tactical fury. Tactical fury.
Our souls are linked. Allow me.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Nice job.
Yes.
I think gold has a bit more value early on. Like, Pyro would have just right there been wasted on a tier 1 in mid. I don't really think that's going to be very worth it for us.
Enemy missing right.
I think he's dead again, I think, right? He's just too far up.
Oh.
Okay. Return to the world.
Jace. Hasta la vista, amigo.
Your left tower is under attack.
It's unfortunate I didn't get there in time. Anubis at least should have been free.
Your left tower is under attack.
Enemy spotted.
Be gone.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
Test me.
Enemy missing right.
I mean, this. Not really sure what to do here. We're just missing everything here.
You got thunderstruck.
The enemy team has destroyed the pyramids. Your left tower is under attack.
Oh my god.
Enemy has been slain.
Thank God we got someone, man. Come on. Get him.
Very strong. Hasta la vista, amigo.
Your left tower is under attack.
Ah, it's unfortunate.
Behind us. Going down. You are fabuloso. Oh, you move like a giant.
I guess no, he didn't know they were behind, right? Like he saw him on the map. Probably just too focused on the fight.
Like a baby.
He healed so much on Afro in this whole scenario. It actually might have made it harder to kill.
Defend the gold fury.
On my way.
Ultimate is ready.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. left tower has been destroyed. Your left tower is under attack.
Ally has been slain. Rain shall wash them away. Enemy has been slain.
Ultimate is down. I curse you to never
Even in Gil, I still haunt your thoughts.
allow me to do my blessing.
Still kind of working out, but it is a bit rough at the moment for the same reason as the last one. Really just need an ADC that doesn't die on cooldown. Then I think we're good.
The pyro has arrived.
But like from what I can tell, like he's not like that bad mechanically. But he's definitely dying too much. Risk walking too far up. I definitely can get one shot, so I gotta be careful.
On my way.
Okay.
They will definitely be looking from here.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Ally has been slain.
Your middle tower has been destroyed.
Hasta la vista, amigo.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Damn, I do wish I had been back before this fight. I would have had a full item, that would have made such a big difference.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Man, I hate that I had to go brawlers instead of... Yeah, instead of Crusher in this. But Anubis just heals too much. And it feels like no one else has any anti-healing. We have it on Saul, but...
The enemy team has destroyed the fire giant. Your left tower is under attack. The enemy team has destroyed the pyro. Your middle tower is under attack.
Help!
On my way.
Medusa also does not have that thing, Lignan Bow.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
My blessing to you.
Retreat, retreat.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
Dude, is my if button not fucking working? The fuck, man? I did so much damage too.
Allow me to heal your wounds.
Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower has been destroyed. White Phoenix is under attack.
The flames shall wash them away.
Bro, what is his positioning? Get back! This is good though. I mean, Sobek just died for no reason and gave us dagger.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Retreat!
Been here long enough.
Retreat! Retreat!
Enemy has been slain. Going down.
Damn, he got all the way in there. That was a long TP.
Double kill. Oh, you move like a jaguar.
Your middle Phoenix is under attack.
Enemy spotted! Behind!
Oh, you move like a jaguar. Oh, very strong. Oh, they hit like a baby.
Maybe get a tier 1 or some shit for this. But yeah, I mean, obviously Anubis still beats my ult. Why wouldn't he? What?
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Ward the fire giant.
Gonna get Bluestone first. Just a bit more useful for poking than Brawlers. Actually, wait, never mind. Isn't Brawlers really good now for poking too? Because they got the new thing like Divine. No, okay, it's a different thing. Weird. Getting a kill on assistant enemy god creates a field around you. Okay. I don't think that really helps me much.
My monarch restores you.
What in the inting hell is this?
Allow me to heal your wounds. Okay. Retreat! Our souls are linked. My blessing to you.
My blade.
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
I was slain an enemy.
The enemy team has destroyed the pyramid.
Ward the fire giant.
Surprisingly, they don't have a ward on it. I do not know what Sobek was doing in that whole scenario, though. The fact that he lived is kind of criminal, though.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Retreat.
You guys don't fight it. The check is not there.
Behind us! an ambush here.
Our souls are linked.
Your right phoenix is under attack.
Wash them away!
Allow me to heal your wounds.
Your right phoenix is under attack.
Ally has been slain!
Retreat.
Hold.
You move like a jaguar!
Mine no. Out of mana. My blessing to you.
Follow me.
I'm sad I didn't get Apollo. He was the one I was targeting the whole time.
Oh, very nice.
The pyromancer.
A bit of a sloppy fight. Like, we can't have bots getting so big plugged into tower like that.
Help!
How to use? You just aim the contagion. It's like aiming any other ability. Yeah, it's just like a big circle.
Your team has destroyed the pyromancer.
You can just throw it. Like, it's a low cooldown. You can just try it out, see how it looks.
Group up.
Transcendence for Crusher. I'm not sure. I do like the lot of power that the trans gives me. Like, if anything, I'll end up selling Nemean and just go for a full poke build. Actually, I'm gonna back here.
Be right back.
Group up.
On my way.
Don't fight without me, guys.
Yes.
Retreat!
Hold.
Come and get me! Your head is sealed!
My blessing to you.
Fabuloso!
Are linked.
I need rest.
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed.
I played that really bad. I should never waste my ult on a single nem.
Now I'm angry!
We can still defend this. They're low.
Our souls are linked.
The enemy team has destroyed the fire giant.
Oh man. I just don't understand what's happening with fucking Medusa. I feel like we should have these fights so easily. Like, our comp is so good into theirs. And I'm late game Chuck. If we stay back, we win the poke battles so easily.
My blessing to you. Allow me to heal your wounds.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Do not test me.
Why are we all the way up there, though? Why are we up there, boys?
Help!
The Pyromancer has arrived. Your middle Phoenix is under attack. Your right Phoenix is under attack.
Can't really do much.
Your
Put our one man down.
has been destroyed. Your middle Phoenix has been destroyed. Your left Phoenix is under attack. Your left Phoenix has been destroyed.
Okay, and they just.
Your Titan is under attack.
Oh man.
You cannot escape.
Defeat.
Oh, fuck. There's just too much of a difference. Like, they have actual useful players in their team, pretty much doing everything. Like, even Thor, who was, you know, having a rough time early, is still a good player. Like, I know basic. He understands. But I feel like there is no damage coming outside of me and Saul in these fights. It's tough. But holy Nemean, dude. Not Nemean, Lenient Bow. Dude, I'm so tired of this item too. You just build it on anything that really has auto attacks. That uses auto attacks. I do say it's autos like I do on the controller. She was struggling. Like I don't blame them if I can put it in a somewhat nicer way. Like, it is what it is, right? Not everyone is on the same skill level. But it does suck now twice in a row that we have an ADC that just is really, really struggling and feeding their ADC. Like, heavily underperforming compared to theirs, which does suck. And honestly, it's not even that they feed in lane. I'm actually okay with that. You know, that shit can happen. I get it. Sometimes it's hard to stop a snowball from happening. That being said, if you position yourself bad in late game team fights, that's when I'm gonna start, you know, being a bit annoyed. Because not only did you feed, you're also positioning yourself terribly in these team fights, and you're just getting caught. I'm pretty sure we win these fights 100% of the time if we were 5v5. But not in any of these team fights did we do anything in a 5v5 scenario. It's just Nemesis running up behind, which should realistically be a free kill, which is what I tried to do every time, but I was the only one who ever went on her with Afro. Because that's the logical choice. You go for the ones isolated in the back. But no one else did that shit. But whatever. It doesn't matter now. Maybe it's ADC time. Now, I mean, I don't think I could have done much better in that game. Like, that was just... I mean, I hate really just saying it, but like, it was kind of just team diff. I think... Like, the shock... Like, full damage shock there pretty much did as much as it could have. I was top damage by a mile. I did the job that I was supposed to do. But we just didn't really have the... I do think it's mainly ADC damage that we needed in this game. Because Sobek should have been dead I don't know how many times because of the positioning he had. We just did not have the ADC damage coming in to actually kill him in time. I think it's okay not swapping if you think you can do better. But I was not convinced in this game that you should not have been in the jungle, that's for sure. I definitely think you should have been jungle. Like, I'm okay with going solo, as long as the person I know also can play solo, but I would prefer that I am solo if I don't know who is going in there. I don't trust them with the role. But it's also just a weird conversation, because I'm also just a believer of... I'm sorry, man. I can't fucking play support for my life. But I'm a big believer that, you know, just because you're better doesn't mean you should get the role. But it does suck. I completely agree that if you're giving away your role and it's just getting fed on. I don't really think there is any like positives to that either. It just sucks. But like, I wouldn't take away a solo from someone who wants to play solo, even though they might be much worse than me. Because like, in a way, the argument for that, I think, is they need to practice more than I do, right? I'm saying practice in a sense, but yeah. I don't know. I'm a bit split on the subject, I guess. Yeah, the big if. The big if. I mean, in this case, I'm just leaving both open, right? Let's ban so big then. Alright, you choose. You want a Latin or Kali? I'll take the other one. Buddy.
Select your god.
I mean, if we're banning a Wheelix and not picking the Aladdin, I'm taking the Aladdin. I actually thought I had it there. I didn't realize Kali was banned for some reason. I was like, alright, they're trading like a jungler for a jungler, I guess, or like a big pick for a big pick. I was like, alright, sure, you can pick Kali or Aladdin. I'll take the other one. But then because Hades was also open, I was thinking, alright, then I can also just join the Hades. That's great. If someone else would want either the Aladdin or Kali on my team, then we get both. I played myself. Just overthinking it. I'm actually gonna start to need some wins, boys. Like, team, here. Alright, if you can hear me, we gotta try hard a bit, right? I've been losing a lot lately. And a lot of those games don't feel very justified in those losses. I would like some wins. Yeah? I might have to give Guan Yu another shot as well. I think actually even more now that tanks aren't as good, Guan Yu is actually even better. Since you're not really building full tank on him anyway. And if you meet a tank in lane, you just feel like you're getting absolutely docked on. But he's really good into general non-tanks. On a 7 losing streak, yeah. I mean, it is what it is for sure. I generally just take it with, you know, a grain of salt. But still. Alright, let's see. Who are we against? I only recognize one name on the enemy team here. And I kind of recognize everyone on ours, so if we lose this, I might be a little disappointed, team. Oh, Oh, their comp though is so annoying. It's kind of good for me if we hit late game, but the Ymir Cabragan frontline is kind of a mood killer for me. I do like having conduit. I'll keep doing that. Like, their front line is very, very annoying and strong. I wonder if Aladdin with Nemean is nice. Maybe I'll try that. Because it could be a good Nemean game in this one. With 3 ADCs. I'm gonna get absolutely shit on otherwise if they all build lenient bow. Actually, when I think about it, is it actually the meta again where 3 ADCs are the way to go because of lenient bow? It might be.
Minions have
Like, the
spawned.
tanks are still, you know,
Okay.
they might get one-shot late game, but if they can just take enough hits so that your 3 ADCs can one-shot everything else first, you might be golden.
To me, Genie. That's just.
I think I fucked up.
Excuse me, my mistake.
Awful.
That's unfortunate. Didn't get any XP.
Record.
Hey, on the bright side, right? At least my Achilles got full XP for that. Like, shoot, he's fed now. That's so bad for me. Oh.
To me.
Oh, that is absolutely just tragic for me.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Oh, it's Izanami mid. Okay. You wanna fight, eh?
Record.
Yeah, Cabragan's still gonna win against anything here, I think. He's still very early.
Your right tower is under
I might have lowered his ability damage on the 2, but it doesn't change the fact that he still has 2 of them. Dude. What is happening, team? This is not what I need.
To me.
Your middle tower is under attack.
At least, like, let's get to late game or mid game or something, right? So that I can actually be Aladdin. What's up with today?
To me, Genie. To me.
Cabragan should be very easy gank though.
Let's go.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Record.
For an Achilles on top of an Aladdin.
Your right
So
tower
I do hope
is
that he
under
does that
attack.
early before he gets too tanky.
To me, Genie.
Your middle tower is under
enemy has been slain.
Enemy missing middle.
You rock! The rain shall wash them away. Move like a jaguar.
Slip away quickly.
Your right tower is under attack.
Double kill.
Your right tower is under attack.
Ah, it's a jungle dancer, I see.
An enemy has been slain.
Your right tower is under attack.
Now I'm kind of glad that I picked the Aladdin, because if I picked something that was good for laning phase here, I would have just been cooked. Because now I have to farm for late game.
Your right tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
Come here, Ginny.
Compared to before, where maybe we could have done something early.
Enemy spotted.
Record. Enemy missing left.
I will probably try and rotate a bit though.
Oh, my horrific.
Small XP lead.
Let's go, Ginny. Into the map.
Your right tower is under attack.
Cover them, Ginny.
So scrap both, I guess. I had to make sure I get this kill.
Come here, Ginny.
Allies slain.
Record.
Should always use it. For once I actually remember.
Yes.
Your right tower is under attack.
To me. Right.
Tank right lane. Enemy spotted.
Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy spotted.
Enemy spotted. Oh, you move like a jaguar.
Record.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Let's go. Let's settle this.
That might be people outside.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Slain an enemy. Fabuloso.
Enemies in left lane.
My horrific.
Yeah, not really much to do about it.
Yeah. Your left tower is under attack.
This sucks, man. This really sucks.
Your left tower
Guess I should have
is
waited
under
going out of
attack.
the
Your
lamp.
right tower is under attack.
At least waited until my 3 was back up, because I don't think it was. Now it just beats for no reason.
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower is stronger than you.
The rain shall wash them away.
Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy missing left. Cancel that.
Enemy has been slain.
It doesn't matter. Cabraga still just he doesn't have cooldowns, it feels like, man. He even has lower cooldowns in my ult. But he always has something to throw out. I still hate dealing with him.
The Pyromancer has arrived. Your middle tower.
Like, what is this also? 7-0 and 8-0? Guys, what? What is happening?
Your right tower is under
What?
attack. The enemy team has destroyed the
What's
Gold
happening,
Fury.
man? This queue today is driving me fucking crazy. Before this stream, I was thinking I actually might not want to stream because I know I'm going to do it tomorrow when the aspect comes out. I was like, maybe I just take a break today or chill. Should I maybe listen to that thought?
The rain shall wash them away. Ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Enemy open now. Very strong. When it rains, it pours. Let's go. Record. Let's settle down. When it rains, it pours. Oh, easy run.
Well, it's Jover. He's so fat, man. He did so much damage to me. He's just critting me too. Actually has 4 levels on me. Who even is this? It has to be a Smurf or an ult.
Your right tower is
Or just a
under
rename,
attack.
I guess.
Watch yourself.
It's gonna be April or some shit. Not really sure who else plays fucking Dancer.
The enemy team has destroyed the Pyromancer. Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy missing right.
Nothing else for me to do but just farm now. No way.
Ally has been slain.
Fucking way, man. Probably shouldn't have ulted him. When he got low, but... Dude, I don't even think a Paul can kill him in a 1v1 here.
Ally has been slain.
It might be a surrender angle. I don't see us winning this. I'll be very fucking surprised. But I mean, Zeus Aladdin,
Your left
maybe.
tower is under attack.
Is it completely insane?
Let's go, Jimmy. Come on then.
The rain shall wash them away.
If they're gonna kind of like int like that, then maybe.
Come on then, Jimmy.
Ooh, an ally has been slain.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Let's settle this. Come on then.
Has arrived.
Juga Thunderstruck.
Rock. Even the genie was impressed.
It's a chance. Just a small chance. I don't need to be careful dashing early. I don't recommend dashing early in the lamp, but if I don't go for it, like I just can't risk Neath just killing me before I get the chance to.
Come on then, Jimmy. Enemy missing left. Be careful right.
Okay.
To me, Genie. Ah, no worries. We can fix this. I must slip away quick. We need wards.
If we could just ward to see rotations, that would be great. Fucking Izanami is here. Fuck. No! Please get her! There's no way she gets away from this. Right? He might die for that.
Your left tower is under attack.
Safe.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Whoops.
Oh, easy wrong teamers.
Enemies at the fire giant.
Enemy team has destroyed the fire.
I don't even know what the fuck I'm pressing.
It's not possible.
I don't even know what I'm pressing anymore. I'm too tilted. How is this game so one-sided? That's the main thing. I don't understand how everyone got so shit on in this game. Because I know they're not bad. How did they get so farmed? Like specifically in duo. I do not know how... Whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm just confused and sad.
Tower is under attack.
Yeah, I don't know what's with our duos today. They're just cursed. Because it doesn't seem to be a player problem, apparently.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower.
It has to be a curse. No other explanation. At least this guy is somewhat low level. Maybe I can join him.
Your right tower is under attack.
Let's go. Right.
Enemy missing middle.
I don't want to ult for that.
Wash them away.
Your right tower is under attack.
He fucking walled my ult, man. He fucking walled my ult, I don't believe it. That's the luckiest shit I've ever seen. A part of me didn't realize you could.
Bro, mass speeds, man.
I mean, we got down to at least, right? I got a huge... Can I actually tell how much gold I got from that? I'm not sure I can. That's not an option in my 2, I think.
By my beard, this shall serve me well. The right Phoenix is under attack. The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Follow them.
Slow farm.
To me, Jimmy.
Why are we fighting?
Oh, my-rific.
Dude.
The enemy team has destroyed the Pyromancer. Your left tower has been destroyed. Your left tower is under attack. Enemy ultimate down.
I'm so focused on this game. We're slowly getting stuff though. Slowly getting stuff. I'm getting some kills. I'm nearing level 20. Oh.
On my way.
On my way. Do not damage Cabrakan. Don't have any pen.
Let's go.
How? Dude, what even happened to my fucking jump there? My jump just fucking glitched out on my screen. Like, he was inside the circle, but then he wasn't. Like, I don't understand what just happened there. That's so weird. Because I'm pretty sure he dies if I land it.
Enemy has been slain.
The sound effect on those autos is so funny. No. Tragic. Actually, I did realize I could have just revived. Maybe I should have done that. Would have been decent time to do it.
Your middle Phoenix is under attack. Your middle Phoenix has been destroyed.
But not now. Ain't no way I'm wasting that.
Phoenix is under attack. Your right Phoenix. Your Titan is under attack.
Oh, very strong. Lots of light. Very, very scary. Yeah.
Has arrived.
Definitely should have done it though.
Tokens and tinctures to add to my collection. Attack the fire giant! On my way. Set up an ambush here. To me, Genie!
Completed.
What a shame.
I fucked that one up. I pressed something I did not mean to press.
Range, wash them away. Double kill.
Enemy ultimate down.
They're on it.
Record.
Oh, you move like a jaguar. Move.
Fuck.
IO getting freezed.
The enemy team has destroyed the fire giant.
Huh?
Defend right lane.
You just got frozen your.
Yeah, I did. Maybe I didn't actually. You CC me in the old, right? I just
Your
missed
left
it.
Phoenix is under attack.
Probably.
Your left Phoenix has been destroyed.
Fuck it.
To me.
Should have done that way earlier. I forgot about it. I think it's very easy to forget the wishes because they're not relevant often enough. So I don't know. I always end up forgetting about them.
Record.
I'll defend right lane.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
To me, Genie.
Please don't die. Then they actually just win if we do. Shit, man.
Titan is under attack.
Dude! What is happening? Why am I just getting fucking hammered here?
Your right Phoenix is under attack.
How's the Tide not doing any damage either?
Your Titan is under attack.
Oh my god. Dude, what is Apollo doing? I don't understand.
Enemy has been slain.
Apollo's just hitting the fucking dancer thing! I'm going crazy. I'm actually just going crazy. It was just a mix of suddenly I'm getting hit by everything. I didn't see Izanami stealth after me, and then I got Neath ulted after I just beats. Fuck me, dude. I'm actually just going crazy from these games today. I'm doing one more, and if it's the same shit, I'm going to go do something else. I've had enough. I've lost enough fucking games. to some stupid shit, and duo lanes not being able to just sit in their tower and farm. Enough. Yeah, GG's, man. I understand. If I wasn't streaming, I would have stopped right here. Right then and there. But I'm unsatisfied with the little amount of time I've streamed already. I'll do one more. And maybe that can revive my passion. But right now, my passion is so cooked. It's not even cooked anymore. It's just grilled. It's ash. There's nothing left. Ow. What game is this? It is called Haste. There's a free demo on Steam. This is the full game though. H-A-S-T-E. Haste. Sav. Sav is on my team, finally. Well, yeah, I hit the Nika Q at least. Maybe that's a bit more fun. Get a change of pace in players. I got tapped out. It's a classic. There goes my momentum. First game with a headache. Nice, man. Well, it could be worse though, right? You don't know what I've been through today. I can tell you that it can definitely be worse. The queue I was in was a nightmare. A legitimate nightmare. And it wasn't because of the players. It was just somehow I was cursed to lose no matter what I've done. Oh, damn. That was a pit. Let's see. Do we need more ADCs? Yes. Yes, we do. I think this game I'll probably just go full damage though. Because if I go tanky into 3 ADCs, I'm not gonna have a good time. But I guess that depends on what I'm against too. Because I can still meet a tank. Okay, maybe not. Actually, Hercules might be the one I'm against.
Oh, good day.
Smells like an ages game to me.
Oh, I can't call it.
Ah, Sue Solo. Okay. Okay. Maybe I just start with Lenient Bow this time. It's either that or Golden Blade, I think. I don't know, for brawling, turfing just seems to be the best. It's great. I see, so it's Jungle Eric, actually. Weird comps.
Minions have spawned.
It's not really a matchup I think I'm gonna win early on.
I'm going for jungle buff. Yes. That will not be an issue. Enemy missing middle. Be careful right.
Paul remains to be very mana hungry.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Move up.
Your left tower is under attack.
They just rained on your parade.
I'm so tired of Shell Boys. I want to kill myself in Minecraft.
Yes.
actually so annoyed about that.
Ally has been slain.
Your left tower is under attack.
I should have just checked if he had shell. I win that exchange, that's why I fought. But he had shell, so never mind. I'm gonna lose it today, boys. I have nothing left. I just lost all of it. He might be 5 here. Is that kill? Yeah. Literal full level diff at this point.
La vista, amigo.
Ultimate is down.
Thanks.
Enemy spotted. Your left tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
It's a trap.
Ally has been
Be
slain.
right back.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
It's kind of wild how much diff now there is in this matchup in XP.
Ultimate is ready.
I won't be able to fight him, I think, until I have 2 items online now, specifically. Which do I need? Yeah, I need a little more.
Ultimate is ready.
Enemy missing left.
It's got a gigantic XP lead.
Retreat.
Enemies behind us.
Retreat. Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy missing middle. Boulder dash. Retreat.
I did lose a lot of the
right
wave as well when I decided to fight him on the Warhorn.
Your middle tower
Enemy
is
missing
under
left.
attack.
Enemy has been slain. Oh, you move like a giant.
Curses.
That's so unfortunate.
Boulder dash.
Yeah, I like that.
That would have been a nice kill for me to get. To bring me back.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Okay.
He just has a weird movement. He's just fucking sprinting towards his tower, and then he fucking just stops and turns around. I did just realize though, it's not even my lane that's only going like shit, it's everyone else's too. Duo was struggling. Still though, we have Thor. We gotta gank this Zeus early. Like before he actually gets tanky. Because he's already gonna build into 4 now.
Enemy missing middle. I hope you have a riveting time.
Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy missing left.
Defend the gold fury.
Enemy spotted!
Ward here! On my way! Help left lane! Ultimate is ready!
Okay.
Ultimate is ready!
Okay.
Retreat left lane. It's a trap. Enemies behind us.
On my way. Attack!
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Group
this
up.
is just so cooked now. And the XP gap widens even more.
Cancel that.
I definitely need like a clutch rotation or something to get back into this game.
Ultimate is ready!
Ultimate is ready.
Shut down! Jeez! Sorry.
The help is performing. On my way. Fire attack middle lane. Really not exactly what I was hoping for. Completed. That will not be an issue.
Be right back.
Your left tower is under attack.
Ultimate is down.
Be careful! Ultimate is down!
It's always tough to play Apollo on like a rotation duty, essentially, which is what I try to do. Like just be on standby for when my team might need me. But since we're not fighting much on mid either, there's just not really much for me to do. Because I can't try to get back in the game by rotating, and
Ultimate is ready.
I'm just kind of getting shafted in my own lane.
Enemy missing left! Enemy missing left!
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
That will not be a be right back.
Retreat!
Retreat. That will not be an issue.
Defend!
On my way.
Ultimate is ready!
On my way.
That will not be an issue.
Ultimate is down.
Enemy ultimate down!
Attack.
I'm just static as a result.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
Thanks.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Still got blue though, I think.
Enemy spotted!
Oh, you know, I am sorry.
The Pyromancer has arrived.
Enemy spotted.
Be careful.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Completed.
Ward here!
That'll up this performance.
Ultimate is ready.
Enemy missing left.
I always kind of stumble on what to build third with this. I think I probably just have to go lenient bow.
Enemy missing middle.
It's just what makes the most sense. And they do have some healers on that team, so.
Okay. On my way.
Enemy missing left.
Oh, you move like a jaguar.
Okay.
Oh, very strong.
That's too bad. Sorry.
Allies slain.
Okay. Oh,
On my way.
Your sins are revealed.
Your right tower is under attack. On my way. Your left tower is under attack.
It did some good damage, but it doesn't matter. Like, we're just losing left tower now instead.
that will not
Fuck
be
me,
an
man.
Chase the enemy.
Enemy missing
Help
left.
right
Be
lane.
careful right.
Your left tower is under attack.
Oh, they hit like a baby.
Thanks.
hot.
Your
golly.
right tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under
Enemies in
attack.
middle lane. Golly.
That's too bad.
Go
Your
on,
middle
man.
tower has been destroyed.
Okay.
Ultimate is down. On my way.
Okay.
I smell fish.
Tower is under attack.
Enemy
Suddenly
has
it
been
smells like
slain.
fish here. I can only assume someone is obviously making food somewhere. But just got a fucking whiff that just slapped me in the face. It's very pungent. Now I'm awake.
Enemy missing left.
Enemy ultimate down.
Enemies at the Cold Fury.
On my way. Ultimate is ready.
Be careful. Hot golly.
That's too bad.
Enemy ultimate down.
Actually, did he even ult? Probably didn't. Just bore.
Attack.
Enemies behind
Enemy
us.
missing middle. Retreat.
He is still building somewhat more tanky again. He just has a lot of fucking HP, and I don't have a build that's good at dealing with HP.
Ultimate is ready.
On my way.
Oh, he's the wrong team. I am sorry.
Here's the
Rain
ult.
shall wash them away. Fabuloso.
Protect me.
Slain is back. Triple kill. Oh, like a shot. Double kill.
Okay.
Golly. Dear side.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Your right tower is under attack.
They're also fucking low too, that's so annoying. I got a good miss. But I don't think we had anything that could follow up on it.
Your right tower is under attack. tower is under attack.
It's a trap. Defend the fire giant.
Ally has been slain.
Illuminated brilliant divine renewal.
Oh, you move like a jaguar.
Everyone is fucking blink now. I'm not used to it. Whatever, man.
No problem.
Raised by divine renewal. Like
I just fucking can't play the game in this one.
Your right tower is under attack.
Do they have a lot of HP? Zeus is building a decent amount of HP, but
Enemy has been slain. The enemy team has destroyed the pyro.
Attack fire.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
ultimate is down.
On my way.
Your right tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed the fire tower. Your right tower has been destroyed.
Be careful left.
Group up. Follow me.
Ally has been slain.
Oh, joy. Really not exactly what I was hoping for.
That's too bad.
I'm not sure I was close enough for Pharaohs, but sure just tried, I guess.
Enemy missing.
Enemy spotted.
Ultimate is down. Defend.
Okay. On my way. Group up.
Oh, you move like a jaguar.
On my way. Ultimate is ready.
She has no passive.
I'm just not gonna let him rotate. That's it.
You're actually quite impressive.
That's all I can do. Stop him from rotating.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Be right back.
I wish you all adieu. The Pyromancer has arrived. Be careful.
Ultimate is down.
Enemy spotted.
Be right back. Okay, on my way. ultimate is down.
Wash them away!
Your team has destroyed the pyramids.
Attack! Attack!
Double kill!
Embraced by divine renewal. Quite impressive.
Destroy the left enemy
Ultimate is
tower.
ready.
Absolute gang squad.
Destroy the left enemy tower.
Superiority.
Your right Phoenix is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack. Destroy the left, and your right Phoenix has been destroyed.
Completed.
Your middle tower is under attack.
No, no, no.
Not 20 yet. Shit.
Please?
Enemy missing.
Enemies in middle lane.
Ward here.
Ward here!
I'm going for jungle buff. Ultimate is ready. Embraced by divine renewal.
Enemy ultimate down!
The enemy team has destroyed the fire giant.
Enemy has been slain!
Take flight.
In celestial restoration. That will not be an issue.
Damn, but it didn't realize they were on fire.
Ultimate is ready.
The pyromancer has arrived. Your titan is under attack.
I want to get 20, finish my starter.
Enemies of the Gold Fury.
No, no, no.
Help! Help!
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
I need 20. I'm gonna finish Neiman first. I actually think it's more important. This way I can just try and see if I can go all in on one of the ADCs.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Enemy spotted. Set out an ambush here. Enemy spotted.
And the rain shall wash them away.
Take care of
Jaguar.
Ooh, close one.
Be careful.
There we go. That's what I needed.
Out of mana.
Ultimate is ready. Enemy spotted.
Ultimate is down.
Be careful.
Enemy missing.
Be right back. Attack the fire giant.
Enemy spotted!
On my way. Ultimate is ready.
with joy and peace. They carry light.
On my way.
Heavens protect me.
Attack!
Your end all but Salvation
Enemy has been slain.
at last.
Retreat! Attack the fire giant.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Ultimate is down.
Your team has destroyed the pyramids.
Be right back.
Bolt attack. Ultimate is ready.
I honestly don't know what to build next though. Maybe just get more attack speed. I don't think Oboe is really gonna make all that big of a difference, honestly. Maybe I can do something else.
Your
What does
middle
this lead
tower
into?
is under attack.
Ultimate is ready.
Your team has destroyed the fire giant.
Thanks.
Ultimate is down.
Attack the gold fury.
Ultimate
spotted.
is ready.
Illuminated brilliance.
Your team has destroyed the gold fury.
Attack right tower.
Enemy missing.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
On my way.
I'm on it!
War here.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Enemy missing.
Enemy missing right.
Myth is here.
team has destroyed a middle enemy phoenix.
Be right back. Ultimate is down.
Thanks.
Until next time.
Simply devilish. Thanks. Embraced by divine.
Attack fire giant.
What do I pick up here, though? Do I maybe just go for a little bit of crit? Just a tad?
Cancel that.
Fuck it, I'll try. I do have the pen. Just a little bit of crit would be nice. Not to mention it does give me a bunch more attack speed out of it too. Oboe just don't really make sense, I think, for my build here.
Ultimate is ready.
Enemies in right lane.
Ultimate is ready.
Okay.
Someone used the wind spray.
I'll defend right lane. Help!
Okay, on my way.
Enemy missing.
Ultimate is ready. Okay.
Your right phoenix is under attack. Be careful, middle.
Ultimate is down.
Need healing.
Quite impressive. Ultimate is ready.
Ultimate is down.
I'm just zoning.
Hope you have a riveting target.
Enemy missing.
Your team destroyed the fire tower.
Ultimate is ready.
Enemy has been slain.
Great performance all.
Damn, I didn't get my Aegis off in time. What did so much damage to me? Just a bit of everything, I guess. Neath and Power Burst. Oh.
A surprise for you!
Unfortunate direction to hammer.
Wash them away. Curses.
Bold attack.
Ultimate is down.
Enemies in right lane.
In the chaos, I also didn't get any of my actives up, I think.
Protect me.
Bye.
Yes, nobody can compare to my splendor.
Victory.
Weird game. Definitely weird game. Dude. I mean, yeah, Wonder who carried in this one. Yeah, Sav is good. Sav is very good. My grandfather. I think Sav is the best because I think he understands positioning better than anyone else. He's just very rarely out of position. And when he's put on a god like Ra, he doesn't need to ever be in the front. He just looks for snipes, and when it looks good, he goes in. That's it. I think he does really well with that. I didn't do much this game, but I had some good messes. I had some good CC, actually. Funny enough. And I did actually deal with Bari a few times. That was also good, but that was just because Anemian. That was Anemian diff. This is a fun build, though. I think this is probably just the best case scenario build for me with the Apollo, like, solo. Because with this build, I can sit on the enemy ADC and take care of them somewhat easily, I think. Even if it's like a crit ADC that I'm dealing with, Neiman will just help in those 4 seconds. But I can, maybe, I don't know, I guess it depends on the situation. Like, they requires them to fight back, and they don't always do that. Sometimes they just run away. Yeah, Neath damage is crazy. But I also think you're pretty, like, the best Neath in the EU is gonna be Kretch too. Like, he's the only one that really plays it as much. And he's just really good at it. It's impressive. Let me see if I can get solo. I don't really want to play ADC. Nope. Ugh. It's gonna be the Savra again.
Select your god.
I guess I'll just play Apollo. Like, what else am I gonna play? On Rock Game, he's Radiant? Oof. Even if you lose, though? Does it count losing? Or are you just expecting to win here? Also, yes, finally, an ADC that doesn't get completely shit on by Fenrir. Maybe I can play this game. Need 15? Yeah. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Apollo!
I mean, I do feel like we're very stacked. Probably gonna need bees regardless, right? Damn.
How exhilarating!
Alright, I mean, first Apollo ADC game. Guess I'll do Gilded Arrow. into what? Early crit, I guess.
That'll come in handy.
Not a bad start, if I do say so myself.
And considering how mana hungry I am, I think I'm just gonna go for one multi-pop. Let's see how this goes. I have not done any ADC.
Enough of your words. Minions have spawned.
A fight that truly tests our skill.
No problem.
Brawl always leans to the right. That's interesting.
I almost felt bad for you.
Enemy missing.
I am sorry.
Enemy spotted. Completed. Find you.
Be careful left.
Be careful left. Behind us.
No problem. Attack the minions. On my way.
The universe mourns our loss.
Friend, you are chock full of surprises.
You're welcome. I am
Thanks.
sorry.
No problem.
I almost felt bad for you. Be careful left. Careful left.
No problem. Retreat.
Attack right now.
In range, wash them away.
That's too bad.
It's a bit unfortunate. I was just got
Enemy
body blocked.
has been slain.
Oh, bad on my end as well. On Miss being down.
Your left tower
Yeah,
is
let's just
under
get crit.
attack.
To
No
hell
problem.
with it.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, the minions just caught me. I got completely blocked.
Enemy spotted.
Yes. Ultimate is ready.
The party ends. But honey, I'll teach you.
Excellent.
That's too bad.
Be right back.
Until we meet among the stars.
Enemy spotted. Set up an ambush here.
Flash alert.
Get off of them! That's too bad.
On my way.
Enemy
Ultimate is down. Enemy ultimate incoming.
Time for the big
Enemy missing middle. Careful.
Enemy missing right. Enemies
Completed.
have returned right.
Retreat.
is ready. That's too bad.
Not too bad.
Ultimate is down.
No problem. Be right back.
Ward here. Find your peace and happiness.
Enough of your words.
Enemy missing right. For middle.
Enemy missing left.
Enemy spotted. Attack.
The rain shall wash them away. Incoming. Enemy spotted.
Okay.
On my way. Ooh, I like that. Slave.
Until we meet among the stars.
Save yourself.
Until we meet among the stars.
Bye. Hi.
I can handle it. I am truly Paragon of Forest.
Need healing until we meet among the stars.
Yes.
Enemies
Your
at the
middle
Golden
tower is
Fury.
under attack. Your right
Enemies
tower
at the
is
Golden
under
Fury
attack.
mourns our loss.
Enemy missing.
On my way. On my way. Hi.
Completed. Quite the show. Ultimate is down.
Two of them are half
Enemies
HP.
attack the Gold Fury.
Ward here.
Enemies have returned to base.
An enemy has been slain.
Ultimate is down.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy ultimate down.
Be careful, enemy missing middle. Until we meet among the stars.
Gank.
On my way. Okay. The rain shall wash them away.
Ultimate incoming.
I almost felt bad for you.
An enemy has been slain.
Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy spotted.
The universe
by my
is
ancestors' name.
displeased.
Chase the enemy.
Enemy spotted.
On my way.
Enemy ultimate incoming.
Completed.
Your left tower is under attack. The Pyromancer has arrived.
I'll gank.
Yes.
Enemy spotted.
Enemy missing right.
Enemy missing
right.
Oh, you move like a jaguar.
Okay.
Okay.
I almost felt bad for you.
Enemy spotted.
I almost felt bad for
Attack
you.
middle lane.
Yes.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Completed. Be right back. Be careful. Attack!
Group up. Gank middle lane.
To hell! I'll attack right lane.
I almost felt bad for you.
Enemy missing left.
That's too bad. The rain shall wash them away.
Ally has been slain.
To hell!
The universe is
On
displeased.
my way. Ultimate is ready.
Enemy ultimate incoming.
Your left tower is under attack.
Be right back.
Falling back.
Okay.
I'll attack left lane.
Astonishing.
Your left tower is under attack. Enemy spotted.
By my ancestor's name.
No.
Time for the big reveal.
An enemy has been slain.
I almost felt bad for you. Be careful left. By my ancestor's name.
Shoot off thunderstruck. Enemy missing right.
Hi.
Salutations.
On my way.
Enemies in right lane.
Oh, easy on the team. I am sorry. No problem. Enemy ultimate
Attack
down.
middle lane.
Your left tower is under attack.
The range to wash them away.
Your right tower is
Enemy
under
missing
attack.
left.
Enemy missing right.
Gank.
Bye.
On my way.
Double kill.
Your right tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Moving back, yeah?
By my ancestor's name. Silence these threats.
Stellar performance.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Be careful.
Oh, you move like a jaguar. I'm returning. Right later.
No one gets past me. Your middle tower is under attack. The enemy team has destroyed the Pyromancer. Your left tower has been destroyed. Your left tower is under attack.
The forest asks for your silence.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
Be right back.
I'll gank right lane.
Okay. On my way.
On my way.
Enemy ultimate down.
Your right tower is under attack.
Completed.
Giant to
Your right tower is under attack.
shut down. Oh, you move like a jaguar.
I'll defend left lane. Be careful.
Completed.
I'll defend right lane.
middle tower is under attack.
Be careful, Ryan.
Falling back.
Be right back. Your right tower is under attack. Astonishing. On my way.
Stepping away for a moment. Attack right lane.
Damn, I've been quiet for so long, guys. I didn't even... I've been so zoned out. My bad if it's been quiet for like fucking forever. I can feel myself getting a bit tired, which is partly why. But I've been really focused on this game too. Damn. Legitimately forgot I was streaming. I was just sitting here chilling. My bad.
Enemy missing left.
The Pyromancer has arrived.
Attack fire giant. Help.
Enemy ultimate incoming.
I'll take one of those.
Defend the Gold Fury.
Your team has destroyed
Enemies
the
at the
Pyromancer.
Gold Fury.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Enemy missing.
Enemies in middle lane.
I'm going for jungle buff.
Your right tower is under attack.
They hit like a babe.
Okay.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
The fire giant.
I can handle it. The spirits guide me.
Bit risky, but if they're initiating on mid, at least I can maybe just do gold.
Okay.
Shut down!
Oh no.
Ancestors name.
Ally has been slain.
Your middle tower has been destroyed. Your middle tower is under attack.
Think about dash up in time.
Your middle tower is under
And I fucked my
attack.
miss. That was the main thing. Pressed my miss too early.
Your right tower is under attack.
Are they actually on it though? No.
Oh, my Arifi!
Enemies incoming. The spirits wish you luck. More of the fire giant.
Enemies at the fire giant. Enemies
Enemies
at
at the fire giant.
Not the greatest chuckled.
On my way. Enemy ultimate incoming.
Okay.
Completed.
Thanks.
The forest asks for your silence.
Definitely still don't do a whole lot of damage to Thor, but he also has... Oh, his full tank. Makes sense. I mean, considering that, I'm doing pretty good damage to him. We'll see what happens now that I have Titan's Bane.
Has arrived.
The universe mourns our loss.
Your team has destroyed the pyramid.
Attack! Group up! Follow me. On my way! Follow me.
Enemy spotted.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I do some pretty good damage. Actually.
Be careful, right?
Enemy down! Retreat!
Quite the show. Okay.
Enemy ultimate down! On my way! Enemy has been slain! In range,
Party
wash
ends.
them away!
But honey,
Excellent.
On my way. Fire giant.
No problem.
The hell do I go next? I guess Oboe, something like that. I feel like I'm forgetting an item. Stick a one. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, you don't get more tanky than Thor's build here. And I still do a pretty decent amount of damage to him.
Your left tower is under attack. Your team has destroyed the fire giant. Falling back. Your middle tower is under attack.
Should have probably... Yeah, I should have upgraded my shit instead. My starter.
The forest asks for your silence.
No.
No.
By my ancestors' name.
The pyro has arrived. Your team has destroyed the gold fury.
Jack chasing this thing over here.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
Wait.
Yes.
Wait.
You have my apologies.
Tower is under attack.
Retreat.
No, man, how did that still hit? Fuck, man, Rob Beam is so fat.
Your right tower.
Did not think that was gonna hit me. That's wild. Surely we get just one of them, right? Like, Thor should be dead here. Oh my god, dude, Gary. Oh, it's so funny. I don't know what I'm missing, but I feel like I'm missing something. I guess not. Oh well. At least I can finish my build here. Now it's just 3k pots. That's on me as well. I shouldn't have dove in. I just didn't think I was gonna die for it. I thought we were all inning.
Astonishing. Destroyed the pyro. Middle enemy tower. Allies slain.
On my way.
Let's do that.
Ultimate is ready.
Completed.
That's too bad.
Would've been really good if we had Kakul come there for the follow-up on the ult, but we're just a bit too deep there before we group.
To hell with it.
Take this jungle ball.
On my way. To hell with it.
Wall here.
Enemy spotted.
On my way.
Enemy ultimate
Enemy
down.
ultimate incoming.
Enemy ultimate down. Attack. Enemies have returned to
Enemies
base.
in the left flank. I'll attack the fire giant.
Completed. Enemy missing.
Oh, yes!
Your team has destroyed the fire shot.
No problem.
No one gets past me.
That's too bad.
Attack left. Attack the cold. Attack the cold fury. Your team has destroyed the gold fury. Attack left lane.
It's definitely a scary game. One wrong move and I can raw snipe to oblivion.
The pyromancer has arrived. Enemy ultimate down. Enemy ultimate attack.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy phoenix.
Your team has destroyed the middle enemy phoenix.
Attack right tower.
Be careful behind us.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Incoming. Wash them away.
Ow!
enemy has been slain.
Can't.
Man, we can't let he can't keep getting away with this.
Wash them away.
If I do say so myself.
I can't believe he died with dagger. Oh my god.
Help! Help!
Dude, I don't believe it, man.
Yes.
If they come back from that, dude.
That's too bad.
Like, Savis is really, really good. But there's no way that we all die there to him, man. We're just not focusing him. I did such a great job peeling as well, man. I was the only one trying to peel for fucking Kukulkan. I don't want to push left. I do not want to get caught.
Until we meet among the stars.
On my way.
Need healing.
Enemy ultimate incoming.
Goodbye.
Retreat.
Return to base. Attack fire giant.
They need to back and defend. Like, they have to defend here, so Shvai should be free, right? We have to go on round though.
Ultimate is down.
Your team has destroyed the fire giant.
Enemy has been slain.
I'll attack middle lane.
Ultimate is down.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy phoenix. Your team has destroyed a left enemy phoenix.
Attack right lane.
Attack right now.
Attack the Titans to their right enemy phoenix.
That was a close game, man.
Victory.
Like anyone, like just one mistake. I mean, it's close, but the Sav diff almost stepped in there. Hoo-ha, hoo-ha, hoo-ha. Alright. I'm gonna end it on this though, because it is getting a little late for me now. I gotta make dinner. I can just feel myself getting too tired. Like, I forgot I was streaming during this game. I think I'm just gonna stop. I had fun though, like towards the end of this, the last 2 games here, because I had actual like teams where we could play back and forth a bit. But yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for stopping by as usual. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow for sure, because I do want to play the Apollo aspect real bad.